Hey, you. Do you like to not read things? Because you can listen to them anyways on Audible. We have a free 30-day trial where you get a free audiobook plus 2 Audible originals. And that link is in the description. Go to audibletrial.com/YAGS. That is YAGS for yet another geek show. Hey, welcome back to yet another geek show where we're dabbing on them. This is your host, Alex Ecker.
This is your host, Alton Munnell.
This is your host, Josh Keir.
I'm immediately sorry for that, guys.
I'm not.
Josh dabbed earlier, so.
Yeah, I deserve everything bad that happens to me because of it.
Yeah, there are many reasons this isn't a video podcast.
Yeah.
It's all right. What's up, guys? What's up?
Well, the good reason
Tell me
that
stuff.
This isn't a video podcast because I'm recording this without pants right now.
You too?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I just assume everyone on the internet's not wearing pants until I see evidence to the contrary.
That's
Are
right.
you actively trying to?
A funny face isn't an answer when you're not on a video podcast.
No, it
it's
is not, Dalton. No, it is not.
We need to convert mediums. All right.
Nailed it.
But then we'd have to wear pants, so it's a lose-lose situation.
All right. Josh, what are you playing without pants?
Oh, so many things. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about this week. This is actually a game that I picked up on the Steam sale a couple weeks ago, and I actually played last week, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. It's this little indie game from 2010 called VVVVVV.
Oh.
Nice. Okay.
I was expecting nobody to have heard of this game.
That's one of the first PC games I played.
I know,
even
it
though
was the
it's not
same
PC, but
It was the same
I
thing
think
for
I got
me.
it. I think I got it in a Humble Bundle so long ago.
I think you bought that Humble Bundle for me too, Dalton.
I'm pretty sure I bought that same Humble Bundle because I first played this game in a Humble Bundle back in 2011, 2012 too.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So for, I guess, the uninitiated, this is a really simple little kind of, I guess you could call it a platformer game. Came out back in 2010, so it was really early on in the wave of like the indie gaming wave. It's incredibly simple. The only mechanics that you have are you can play entirely with either the arrow keys on your keyboard or the arrow keys in the space bar, and all you really do is move left or right and hit a button to flip the gravity of the entire world. You're this little stick figure dude who's the captain of a spaceship full of a bunch of other little stick figure dudes that get like scattered around this little dimension, and your job is to basically navigate the world that you crash landed on and round up your missing crew so you can all go home. And the only real thing you can do is flip gravity, so you will immediately start falling up from the floor to the ceiling, or from the ceiling down to the floor, depending on where gravity was when you were starting. It's a pretty short game. I think I beat it in like an hour and a half. Granted, I had played the game before, but it was very long ago, so a lot of it wasn't fresh. This game is it's just so much fun. It's exactly as fun as I remembered. It holds up really well. I don't know when the last time either of you have played was.
Basically, it's an Atari 2600 game where your jump button is really a jump forever button.
Yes.
Yeah. I do have to say, Josh, you paint such a picture with words.
Is that sarcasm?
No, genuinely. For someone who just said, oh no, just fucking wing it. Like off air, you do really well. Just wanted to say.
I specifically said I wanted to stop winging it, and then I wrote down some thoughts about this game. So this is the first fruit.
Oh.
These are the first fruits of that labor. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that as some positive reinforcement that maybe I should actually do some fucking work for this show.
Get another geek show behind the scenes. No.
Yeah. So I think I think I touched on this already, but the soundtrack of this game is dope. It's just really, it's just a whole bunch of chiptune bangers. So if that's something that you're into, this game was doing it before a lot of other games were. I feel like the game is just as long as it needs to be, because it's not super long, but the mechanics are really simple, and they squeeze pretty much everything out of the mechanics in the time that you're in the game. You do some really cool things with rooms, like so many times you'll have to run across a series of moving platforms and like time falling off the platforms because they're moving up and down. And then once you get to the other side, you'll have to like flip back onto the underside of the platforms and then cross the room again on the same platforms, but now you're falling up them instead of down them. And it does a lot of really trippy things with the gravity. There are some segments where instead of moving to the right pops you into the next zone, moving to the right will then pop you onto the left side of the same screen, and up will pop you down just the same unless you get to the like the teleporter in the center of the room or the one designated like exit point of the room, which then makes the puzzles a little bit more three-dimensional in terms of like how you go about things. And then there are just like little slight environmental
spikes.
Kind of well, yeah, there's fucking spikes everywhere. But there are also just things like little lines that will automatically flip you when you touch them. So you have to do cool things like they'll have just like a series of 5 of these in a room with spikes on the floor and ceiling and just like a platform on the left and right side. And you basically just have to time going through all the little boingy bits so that you'll get around to the other side, basically the world's most circuitous jump of all time. This game, it's pretty hard. I didn't remember it being so hard, but you die a ton.
I never finished it.
You'll die a ton, but it kind of gets counteracted by the fact that there is at least one checkpoint on every screen that you go through, and some screens have multiple checkpoints after like particularly hard segments. So when you die, you're never sent back more than like 5 or 10 seconds to like basically the start of the very next challenge that you didn't quite get past. So it stops it from being really frustrating. Except for this, there's one particular segment of the game that I have to talk about. So as a side objective to the game, there are 20. They're just literally called shiny trinkets in the game that that they don't have any story purpose besides, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we found these? And you unlock like the ability to play certain sound, basically like a sound test for the game, but it happens within the entirety of the game. At every like landmark of 3 or 4 trinkets you find, you unlock a new song. But one specifically that really just kind of fucks with how the mechanics of this game is. So basically you're in this ship area and you fall down a shaft that's several screens long, and you get to the bottom, and the bottom is just a platform, a small like 1 pixel high block, and the trinket on the other side. But you can't jump in this game. You can only flip gravity. So to get this trinket, you have to flip and then fall up through several screens worth of like twisting and turning corridors that are spike lined the entire way. You have to hit the halfway point where there's one small platform that you can land on, a dissolvable platform, by the way. So you have a split second to hit that platform and then flip gravity back and then fall all the way down the same shaft and land slightly to the right of where you begin. Like I said,
this game is not for the impatient.
No. Like I said, I think it took me about an hour and a half to beat this game, and literally 20 to 25 minutes of it were spent on that one challenge. I didn't even find all of the trinkets, but I just wanted to get that one.
Oh, that's funny.
So, Josh, you're a person that completed Mega Man 1 through 6 in less time than it took me while cheating. So it being that hard, but taking you an hour and a half, it'd probably take me like 10 hours if I actually
really
tried. Honestly, I love it, but I gave up. It was too much for me. But
same.
It's a game I recommend anyway, because it's really good, but I don't know. I guess I have the ability to appreciate and recommend something that I wasn't able to finish anyway. So, I mean, it frequently goes on sale for like $1. So give it a shot. And if you suck like I do and it's too hard for you, you're still going to have some amount of fun for your $1.
Yeah, I got it on sale for like $1.50 on the summer sale. And that was enough for me to go, I wonder if this is still as good as I remember. And the answer is yes. But I do like my video games to hurt me inside, so I guess take that with a grain of salt. One
Josh?
fun fact that I did pick up when reading through the credits this time. So I don't know if this is an Atari thing that the game is spoofing, but all of the rooms that you go into have like basically like a name of the room at the bottom, and sometimes you know what I'm talking about. Like sometimes you'll like walk into a room and it'll have the name. It'll just have a name, and maybe it'll be like a pun. It might be a continuation off of the pun of like a previous room. Like there's one room where you're like trying to do some stuff over a large gap, and the name of the room is What's at the Bottom. And if you fall down below, the next room's name is Spikes Are, and the whole room is just a bottomless spike pit that you fall into and die.
Josh, you reminded me of a story, actually. I remember when, Dalton, you were in college and I'd come visit you guys. And the one night we decided to have a few drinks, kick back, and then you put on Potato Man Seeks the Truth.
I've been waiting to bring this up since Josh started.
All right, let me just finish my one fun fact.
Go for it, man.
So while I was reading the credits, it said that the person who actually named all the rooms in this game was Bennett Foddy, who you might know as the creator of Quap and also Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
Yep.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I didn't know who he was the first time I played this game, although I was familiar with Quap at the time. But now that Getting Over It is out, I think Bennett Foddy is a little bit more known of a name. But yeah, he was not involved with the game. I actually think he was a Kickstarter backer.
Really?
Oh.
I don't know. He was either a backer or a friend of the developer. I actually don't. Now that I'm saying this, I actually don't know if Kickstarter was a thing in 2010. It probably wasn't.
Huh. Wow.
I mean, otherwise, it is pretty strange to like hire on a guy that just names rooms.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'd be
I thought that
interested
was
to
fun.
see how that happened.
Oh, man.
All right. So tell me about these potatoes.
Okay.
He's a man.
And he seeks the truth. And I just remember Dalton being like, hey, you want to play a rage game? And you put this game on and you tried the first stage and we're getting so mad. And I was like, let me do this. And I somehow managed to beat the game. And then I just remember like sitting outside of your apartment. We were sitting there. I think we were pretty drunk. If I remember, you decided to try and do the balance walk that kids do on like the edge of like the sidewalks or like the, you know what I mean? But the thing is,
one does when drinking. Yes.
But you had like a 10-foot drop beside you on your left. And then I was just like, hey man, stop it. We found the truth. We're fine. And then we just made like a small, like 3-second video that I still have on my Facebook where I was just like, I just found the truth. And I turn over to you and you're just like, huh.
You know, I don't remember what the truth is. I might have to replay it now.
Oh man, we might have to do it for yet another Let's Play because, oh fuck, why did I just sign myself up for that?
I just Googled this game. You can totally play it on coolmathgames.com.
Really?
Whoa.
Which is apparently still a thing.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Why is...
What?
Dude,
there's a good audio syncing point.
I have follow-up questions.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the end of this episode. We're all going to go play coolmathgames.com.
Is addicting games still a thing?
Oh, I hope so.
I so hope it is.
Oh, they're totally still there.
Really?
I don't think I've been on addicting games since Congregate became a thing.
Wow.
Well, all right. So next week's episode is just going to be like 5 addicting games and like
oh my god,
5 Cool Math Games
can we please do like a nostalgic Flash Games spotlight?
Yes.
I'm literally on addictinggames.com and I see Kitten Cannon and the helicopter game and oh my god, Crush the Castle.
No way.
Yeah. Dude. They still have it. They
God.
still have it all on here.
We could also become a dedicated Pajama Sam Let's Play channel.
Dude, okay, I don't care how we figure it out, but we're gonna play Kitten Cannon. Like maybe we should all get together like and do a live stream on YouTube of just playing Kitten Cannon or something dumb. Like that would be a lot of fun.
That would be amazing.
Oh, that would be so cool.
All right, we'll figure that out. In the meantime,
Did you guys ever play the Heli Attack games?
No, I did not.
no.
Heli Attack 2 and Heli Attack 3 were like all I've played with my friends in high school while we were like in the library and not working on, fucking the Tale of Two Cities or whatever dumb shit we were working on at the time.
Yeah, 5-paragraph essays and stupid. That was awful.
All right, so I've derailed us a lot, but I did find the page for Potato Man Seeks the Truth, and it looks hilarious, and I kind of want to check it out.
Oh,
now.
dude, it's intense. Speaking of games that are kind of like flash gamey, though, I picked up a game for super cheap on the Switch called Ninjen Clash of Carrots.
Okay.
The summary goes, it's a bunch of different animals, but there's like this peaceful village of bunnies, and these animals like pigs and there's like robots and shit. They take all the carrots out of this village, and you and one other person are like the ninjas that defend the village, but for some reason they weren't there. And the whole game is just running, and like it's like a side-scrolling like running. How do I want to put it? It's kind of like Galaga in a way. Okay. But it's just old-timey ninja fighting robots and defeating these animals and getting the carrots back. And it's really like, it's super like, if it weren't for the dialogue, I think it would be pretty boring. It's actually really funny just because the dialogue. Like, there's a boss that they kidnapped an outhouse that had a little tiny like Shibu dog in it, and the dog is just like, oh my god, it smells in here so bad, as you're like fighting it like fighting the robot holding it, and you're trying to break the dog free, and he ends up being the merchant to buy stuff from. And then like there are these giant like gorillas as bosses that like they break the flow of games, so like you're not running anymore, but you're like in a small arena that you have to like dodge their moves and run around them. Some of the dialogue, though, one of the bosses, you beat the boss, and it shows like the evil headquarters, and they're all talking, and they're like, boss, we failed. And the boss guy is just like, you know what? I didn't expect failure from you. I'm now like demoting you to a normal type enemy. And then like, like just like shit like that. Instead of making, it's just really funny. Like the mechanic, the dialogue, the art style, it's all pretty vivid and kind of self-aware of what it is, and it just makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's always a careful line to draw though with something like this, where you're trying to hit like being quirky without hitting lol so random humor. It's really easy to accidentally cross that line. I think Potato Man manages to stay behind it. Yeah. So yeah, but maybe I'll see if this one stays behind it for me too.
Yeah. There's lots of dialogue in this game, but Potato Man didn't have any dialogue, did it? I just remember the ending like sprites of Potato Man, and just it was funny. We'll save that for either if we stream it or let's play it.
Yeah, we'll find a reason to go back to it.
Oh, definitely.
So were you done with this game?
I was just about to ask you what you got here.
Oh, all right. Are you guys familiar with Baba Is You?
Yes. This game is on my wish list, and I almost picked it up this last sale, but I did not.
Okay. This qualifies as another game that I highly recommend, although it's way too hard for me and I quit. It's gonna be a recurring theme. It's just I appreciate the hell out of it, but I can't do it. I realized I was gonna spend way too much time just like opening up walkthroughs when I give up on the puzzle solving. So Baba Is You is a puzzle game, kind of like, oh my god, have you guys played We Didn't Playtest This, the card game?
I have it, but I have never played it.
We need to play it.
Okay, the similarity is that it's a game where the rules are getting modified on the fly.
Okay.
You kind of change the conditions required for winning. So you're on like a grid-based level. You know, you're a character occupying one space on this grid, and you move around different elements of the puzzle. But there are words filling tiles that create rules and win conditions and change things about the environment. So, for instance, words that are pushed together on the screen that say Baba Is You, that means the character, Baba, you get to control it. However, if you were to take like another word, say rock, and push it into the word Baba, push Baba out of the way, now rock is you. Now you're controlling the rock. And when I say you're changing the win condition, that's because win is one of the words. So you might need to form like flag is win or Baba is win or something like that.
Okay.
And so it's a puzzle of navigating this space, but also figuring out some tricky wordplay to modify the rules. It's a really interesting and unique mechanic, and I appreciate the hell out of it. But for me, it got really hard, really fast, and it's I don't know how good, like, Josh, you're obviously much better at games than I am. I don't know how much that holds true for puzzle games.
I don't play a lot of them, so it's probably not.
But I found myself having to resort to guides really quickly, and I don't know if that's my own stupidity or maybe the game just not having a fair, like, difficulty curve. Nonetheless, I appreciate the hell out of it, and I think people should check it out, even though I'm a dumb bitch and I quit.
Yeah, I've had my eye on this for a little bit, and
that was the most accurate statement that Dalton has ever made.
If we ever make merchandise, that should be Dalton's t-shirt.
I'm a bitch and I quit.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
All right, there's the episode title. I've been having a hard time coming up with those.
I'm a bitch and I quit.
All right, Josh, you got anything else?
Well, yeah, I guess if we want to keep talking about my masochistic video game tendencies, ever since I beat Sekiro, because it's been about 5 minutes since I've said that name, I decided to go back and I went back and replayed Dark Souls 3. Because
I really thought you were gonna say Sekiro.
I mean, I do have 1.5 endings to get still that I am going to go back and do eventually, because I do want to 100% that game. But
Josh, this is why you don't have time to watch HBO shows.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Oh man, that's funny.
But yeah, I've been replaying Dark Souls 3 since I beat Sekiro, because I had never actually finished that game. I was really excited, like, when it came out. I got the collector's edition with, like, the season pass and everything, and all the DLC came out, and I hadn't played any of it because I never even got far enough in the base game to get that far, to, like, actually access the DLC. But okay. I don't know, the games that I've been playing right now have, like, successfully reactivated my get good gene to the point that, like, I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I want some more challenge, so I'll go back and try this one out. And it's Dark Souls. At this point, you probably know whether or not you like Dark Souls. If you like Dark Souls, you're going to really like Dark Souls 3. And if you don't like Dark Souls 3 is not going to change your mind. It very much, and I think especially Dark Souls 3 as, like, the end of the Dark Souls trilogy is very much just, like, it's a fan service game, but I don't say that in a bad way. It's just that they do a lot of things that they know that fans of the games will like, in terms of, like, returning mechanics and even locations. The lore of Dark Souls 3 ties very heavily into the lore of the first. And, you know, it's got the typical Dark Souls ambiguity about it, where you'll have no idea what the fuck is going on unless you, like, read the description of every ring and, like, piece of shit that you pick up off of the ground.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you'll just read it all, and then you'll go to a YouTube channel that's going to explain it for you anyway, because you still couldn't figure it out.
Josh, I just pictured a Dark Souls character literally picking a piece of shit up off the ground and having, like, a 3-paragraph story behind it. Like,
it's
accurate.
It's not that far off from what actually happens.
I know.
Hi, Alex, we were talking about Dark Souls, not Star Wars.
Ooh, got him.
Anyway.
That being said, I actually did make it through this time. And I was glad that I did. After having played Sekiro, going back to Dark Souls 3, which, by the way, is probably the the fastest and most fluid of the Dark Souls games. Even Dark Souls 3 still felt very clunky to me in comparison to Bloodborne, just because, or not, well, not Bloodborne, Sekiro. Although Bloodborne is also very good.
Bloodborne is faster Dark Souls.
Yes. Dark Souls 3 is actually kind of like a midpoint between Bloodborne and Dark Souls. They definitely took some notes out of Bloodborne's page when they made Dark Souls 3 because it came out after. And as such, it's probably the game I would most recommend to fans of From Software's like newer titles like Bloodborne and Sekiro. And if you've never played a Dark Souls game and you wanted to get into the series, I would kind of paradoxically recommend picking up the third one first. It's Dark Souls. The story doesn't matter all that much, so you're not gonna. Mechanically, it has aged the best out of the three games of the series.
Oh yeah. I wish I found out that I didn't like Dark Souls when I first played Dark Souls 1, because I thought Dark Souls 3 would be the game that changes my mind. Because isn't it like everyone hates Dark Souls 2?
Dark Souls 2 has a lot of problems. I tried getting into it and I could not. The level design felt really bad compared to the first. There were some really bad glitches with the game in terms of like the weapon durability was tied to the frame rate on your computer for the PC port specifically. So if you had a high end rig, and you had like a high amount of FPS in the game, your weapon durability would go down for every frame that your weapon was in contact with like an enemy or the environment or something like that. So you actually got punished for playing the game on a better computer because your weapon durability just got fucked. That's bad. They actually ended up remastering Dark Souls 2 before any of the other games, and they released it again as the Scholar of the First Sin edition, which not only like fixed a lot of bugs like that, but also changed up a lot of enemy placements in the game to make them a lot less bullshit. I have never actually played that version of the game. I played the original Dark Souls 2 on PC, but I actually did just pick up Scholar of the First Sin on this most recent Steam sale because I had the first game and it was like $5 to upgrade. I don't know if I'll ever get around to playing it, but I probably will be bored and looking to hurt myself at some point, so I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah. Oh man.
Josh, you'll learn very quickly, if you haven't already, that I will never take anyone's recommendation to not start with the first of something. It'll just never happen.
And that's
You could tell me that 1 and 2 were the worst games ever made in the history of ever, and they should be buried in the landfill where E.T. is, and I would still play them before I got to 3.
That's very, very much not true for Dark Souls. The first game is still a masterpiece. It's
only an exception if it's Final Fantasy.
It's starting to show its age a little bit.
Final Fantasy is different because I was given 7 as a child before I had that opinion and outlook, and also for the fact that it is an anthology. But even then, I've recently started doing that in order. I just played through number 1 and I'm playing 2 now. And the only reason I'm actively playing 11 is because I'm going to finish 1 through 10 before I finish 11 anyway.
Okay, fair.
Given how much content is there.
Okay. I guess let me know when it's time to play 14, because I've been looking for an excuse to jump on that train for a while.
The excuse is that it's pretty good. I've played it.
Oh.
Not enough of it, but yeah.
I've been really digging the music from it, though, because you made that Spotify playlist, Alton.
I've been listening to nothing but that playlist since they released that music on Spotify.
Yeah. Josh,
I don't listen to any other music anymore.
Josh, Dalton made a Spotify playlist. How long is it? It's over a week.
It's a couple albums away from being a full week.
No, it's
in length. It's a few hours short, like a half a day short of being a full week. It's really damn long, and also all I listen to at this point. So
was this after they went and dumped the soundtrack to every Final Fantasy ever on Spotify?
Yeah, like a few days before they actually.
Did you actually go through and like navigate? Because my main problem with that was that all of the song titles were in Japanese, and I had no fucking clue how to find what I was looking for.
I did. I navigated their whole monstrous thing they had going on where like some albums were uploaded twice and the album title would be in English both times, but one of them would have Japanese song titles and there was no way to tell which one you were about to open. Some games at first were only showing up with a Japanese album title and you couldn't tell what it was and it wasn't in English yet, so you couldn't search for it. And yeah, it was a big ridiculous mess, and I have it all neatly organized in a playlist that is now the only thing I listen to.
Yeah.
Which is also why I've been on my hype train of playing so much Final Fantasy.
Don't worry.
I'm gonna need the link
I'll
to
get
that
you that
playlist
link.
pronto.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Alex, you got anything else?
Dalton had brought to my attention that the 2017's Power Rangers reboot?
Yeah.
Where we both really liked the movie. It was very self-aware of what it was.
Josh, did you see it?
I never did see it.
You have to. It's actually really good. The
was.
CGI was surprising. I was really into the character development that they made, and I don't know. I was really weary going into this movie, and I ended up thoroughly enjoying it for what it was. They just announced that they're rebooting it again.
Oh.
I'm angry.
So it got sold, the whole property, the whole Power Rangers got sold from, was it Saban to Hasbro?
Oh,
After that last movie. So like, it was awesome. Like universally, that's not just us. You can check the Rotten Tomatoes. It was well received, but it didn't really make any money. I guess just because people only care about this franchise in America. Like it has no appeal in like Asia at all. And I don't know about Europe, but it like made money, but barely. And I'd wager to say if it got a second one, it would have made more money because it would have had good word of mouth because people liked the first one.
Yeah.
Anyway, since it didn't make any money, the whole property got sold, and Hasbro had the option to say, let's continue with that franchise, which was planned as a 6-movie story arc.
Yeah.
And they decided, no, we're starting all over again, which is kind of crazy because some of those actors have gotten a lot bigger now.
Yeah.
They would have had some star power there.
The Red Ranger, he's in Stranger Things as Billy, I think his name is in Stranger Things. The Pink Ranger went on to play Jasmine in the new Aladdin, correct?
Yeah, and I think she's about to be in Charlie's Angels. Not that I realized I was about to insinuate Charlie's Angels was a big deal. No, it is not. It will not be.
It's absolutely not. Oh man, but yeah, no, it makes me mad because they had us get invested in these characters. And just because I seen
and one of them, I forget the names, I'm sorry, but one of them is rumored to be playing Shang-Chi, which is going to be Marvel's first Asian superhero movie.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's a big deal. That's a big
that
deal that
really
you
big
happen
deal.
to have that guy.
Yeah.
You happen to have that guy and Jasmine and a dude from Stranger Things, and you give that up.
Exactly. It makes me mad, not only because like, yeah, they've gotten a lot more notoriety, but like the character development between all of them was really good. And I don't know, I'm not a fan of when people get replaced just because of contractual reasons or, you know, someone talked bad about somebody else. You know what I mean? So like, even if they changed the characters like to make a sequel, but kept some of them and tried to make this other person like, oh, that's really them. Everyone had like amnesia. Like, I don't know, man. It's really frustrating because they had a good start to something that could have been pretty good, you know, and now they fucking ruined it because why not?
And it's always disappointing to like not end up with a complete story. Like the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, like
Yeah.
universally considered the worst Spider-Man movies, but there was still a lot to them that I really liked, and I would have greatly... It's hard to complain about having Tom Holland now, but the fact that story never got finished, that it ended on like, you know, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 being almost purely build up for future movies that could have paid off well. I enjoyed those movies at the time, and I've never gone back once. Not since the moment Spider-Man was announced for Civil War did I ever consider for a second watching those movies again. And I liked them and I wanted them to be finished. It's just so unfulfilling. It'd be like starting to read A Song of Ice and Fire now. You know it's not going to get finished, so why would you?
You'll get your Amazing Spider-Man 3 when you fix this damn door.
At least give me a comic book of what it would have been. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd take that. Or find a
goodness.
multiverse reason to give us a Maguire, Garfield, Holland movie.
Isn't there already a thing like an old cartoon where they were like, wait, you're me, but I'm me?
I mean,
I see the meme of it all the time.
Spider-Man interacting with the multiverse is a big thing, and that's what the Spider-Verse movie that just happened was. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, if they keep going with this multiverse thing, they could give us a movie with all three of them, sure.
Which I need to watch the end of the Spider-Verse because it's on Netflix now.
It'd be hard to give them all a story arc that matters, but in any case, I'm going to keep us on a movie news-related note.
Yeah.
Sure.
And say, good news, Taika Waititi's Thor 4 is official. Also
Nice.
good news, Taika Waititi's Akira movie is postponed. Both great news.
Oh, man.
How about Thor being the first character to get 4 movies?
Yeah.
Never would have seen that coming before Ragnarok.
Yeah, tell someone that after the Dark World. We also totally saw it coming, though, right? That, like, when Ragnarok happened, you didn't think this is the end of a trilogy. You thought this is the first of a trilogy. It's so different from the last two that it's not. It's weird to use the term trilogy at all because the sheer structure of the MCU doesn't really allow solo characters to have something that constitutes a trilogy. Like Iron Man 1 through 3 is not a complete story on its own, and neither is Captain America 1 through 3.
Right.
So maybe it's a strange term to use here, but Thor 1 and 2 are just so disconnected from 3 that, yeah, it felt like you were introducing a new character and a new franchise. And all right, Thor Ragnarok 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. I mean, I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, we don't need an Akira adaptation, even if it is Taika Waititi. So let's keep
Thor 4
postponing
gonna
that into
basically-
oblivion.
Isn't Thor 4 basically going to end up being Guardians 3 now?
Well, so those are both
That's
happening.
what I was thinking, yeah. Unless we're getting Thor 4 and then Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Whether, I mean, it was officially announced as Volume 3, but I'd like to see them change the title
Yeah.
to Asgardians of the Galaxy.
It'd be
yeah.
really funny if they made a poster and it was just in lightning, it said Ass Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Wonder if you can translate that joke into other languages.
That's going to be the reason they don't use that title.
Probably.
I know. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. All right. Here's some news that's going to prompt an interesting discussion and also makes a good follow-up to a previous discussion we've had.
Sure.
We discussed Disney re-editing some of their classics before putting them on Disney Plus in the future.
Yeah, we talked about the Dumbo thing.
Yeah, specifically Dumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix has announced that they're editing a scene out of 13 Reasons Why. Have either of you watched this show? And if not, do you know what the big deal is?
I haven't watched it. I know the controversy about it, which is actually why I haven't watched it.
This is also a book, isn't it?
I think it was.
It may have been.
Because I'm pretty sure my
seasonal.
wife read the book and then watched the show. And I
Yeah,
can't remember if she liked the show.
Season 1 was an adaptation, and then it kept moving with original material. I've never watched it. I'm just also familiar with the controversy. And
I'm not familiar with it at all. I live under a rock.
basically, suicide is a big story element, and people
Yeah.
felt that they weren't being careful enough about not glamorizing it.
Kind of like
have
how
no-
yet another, what was it? Orange is the New Black was glamorizing prison in some sort of way that I seen someone write that about it.
I'm not familiar with what you're referring to, but in any case, I have, none of us having seen it, I have no opinion on whether it properly handles the subject. But here's where this is a little different than what Disney's doing, because I think at the end of that episode, we all decided it was right. It was okay for Disney to edit something like Dumbo, so long as, the original copies still existed and you could obtain it in some way or another and not lose that art.
Right.
What Netflix is doing differently here is that they've also proclaimed they are going to put in effort to keep the original clip removed from the internet, which of course can't be accomplished 100%. But basically, they're going to keep hunting down torrent sites for it and hunting down YouTube uploads of it to try to prevent, any people they possibly can from watching it. And again, no opinion on the show itself, no opinion on the scene itself. But
Right.
that, I feel, crosses a line into wrong.
I have the same stance as I did with the Dumbo thing. You know what I mean? Where
It feels like
here's the thing with news. They're going to find a problem in anything that they can that's controversial and in the start of it anyways. No matter what it is, there's always going to be a problem with it. And that's why I appreciate some things that Netflix does, because they're like, here's a story, how we want to tell it. And it's disheartening to see Netflix backpedal.
yes and no.
Like, I understand why. I totally understand why, because if it's really that bad, then go ahead. But don't try and wipe your mistake completely. Like, that's the wrong thing. You know, going after torrents, perfectly fine, because if it's something that you did and, you know, you're not getting paid for it, cool. That's fine.
I mean, on the grounds of stopping piracy, go ahead and try to get that stuff removed from the internet. But on the grounds
infringement, correct, yeah. But on the grounds
of censorship,
no. On the grounds of I cannot talk today. On the grounds of censorship, don't make it possible to see it, but like on a different, you know what I mean? Because it just makes sense, because people can learn from that mistake. Or you know what I mean?
It just kind of feels like simultaneously admitting that they made a mistake in the first place and yet somehow not owning up to it.
Yeah.
By trying to. It's weird how it can feel like they're doing both at the same time, but it does.
Right. It's weird, but if you think it's a mistake, don't hide it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everyone makes mistakes every single day. Josh, you have something to say?
So in most cases, I'd probably agree with you there. But I have a really, as we were talking, I just kind of looked up a little bit more. Are either of you aware of like what the content that was cut is?
No.
Want me to explain the scene that was cut from the show? This is apparently spoiling the end of season 1 of this show, which I know none of us have watched and probably don't intend to.
Yeah.
But listeners, this is
obligatory spoiler warning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the original nearly 3-minute long scene aired midway through the season 1 finale. It depicted the character named Hannah assessing her life in the mirror before she is depicted sitting in a bathtub, tear on her cheek, taking a razor blade to her left wrist and piercing the skin. The camera then holds on to the character as she shrieks in pain as blood gushes from an increasingly long cut that extends nearly up to her elbow. Hannah is then seen gasping for air as her breathing ultimately slows and blood-stained water drips out of the tub. Not long after, her mother discovers her daughter's lifeless body in the blood-filled tub. So what they're cutting out is a graphic depiction of suicide, and the reasons that Netflix is citing for this is that they've been working with mental health professionals while developing this show, and I think that they agree, or at least were advised, that such a graphic depiction of such a sensitive topic could end up being very harmful to impressionable people, and maybe people with, you know, maybe poor mental health. And I kind of agree with that too. It's difficult to say, because I know this is like a super slippery slope, alliteration not intended, that I'm about to go down here, but I don't really see what the artistic merit is of the scene. It just seems a little bit overly graphic and, potentially very harmful. That's my knee-jerk reaction to having just now learned what the content was. So I might need to stew on this for a little bit more time before I have a more well-formed opinion about it. All in all, this seems like something that probably should have just been cut from the original production of the show, and it's a little bit odd to do it, several years later. But when this is something this is the type of content that's the target audience is young teens and young adults, many of which who probably struggle with self-harm issues or suicidal ideation. I know when I was in high school, people cutting themselves was a really big problem, and there were all sorts of movements. There was the To Write Love on Her Arms movement and a whole bunch of other movements that were trying to get the word out that it's not okay to harm yourself. There are more appropriate ways. There are better ways to deal with those feelings. And the reason that I've steered clear of 13 Reasons Why for so long is because the show has absolutely been accused of kind of glorifying suicide or glorifying suicide as a means of revenge upon people who have wronged you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. This whole show seems really problematic to me.
Yeah.
I don't think that this scene getting cut actually really changes that even about it, but I also don't know that in something aimed at people that are that young, you probably don't need a graphic 3-minute long suicide scene that doesn't really add anything to it. The article I'm reading says that basically now it just cuts from her staring into the mirror to her parents discussing the fact that she had just taken her life, which is probably kind of jarring. But I don't think
absolutely.
I think you can probably piece what happened together. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you could take, I hate saying it this way, but there's a more artistic approach that's not vulgar about it.
You very easily could have set that scene up in a way that strongly implied what was happening without
in Reservoir Dogs
graphically showing it.
Right. In our spotlight about Reservoir Dogs, we talked about a particular scene where the camera shows you what's about to happen and then turns away. And I feel something like that could have done better because it's already obvious what's going on. If you're a fan of the book, if I'm not mistaken, it was a book, correct?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
See, I didn't realize that this was geared towards teenagers to young adults. And now that I know that,
it is a difficult one to say what artistically does this contribute, because that is a question that we can then apply to every shot of every movie ever, especially anything remotely violent. We can now point to any Tarantino movie and say, did that gunshot need to be there? Like, there is a stretch, but I'm a little more open to that point on a show where they did say this is at the advice of, experts in the field, and that it's not a matter of them avoiding giving a certain message, but it's a matter of avoiding actually affecting people in the real world, causing something a little more than just an uncomfortable feeling watching a show.
Yeah.
So on that grounds, I totally get it. And I'm totally cool with them removing the scene, as much as I would have preferred them just do it before they ever aired it.
Yeah.
I guess what feels a little off to me,
I'm willing to change my opinion.
But I guess what just feels off to me is the further attempt to try to wipe it from the internet. Not that it matters, because they couldn't possibly do it.
No, they couldn't. But now that I kind of have more context, instead of me just kind of like spouting off the way I did, I do feel maybe my opinion would be more changed knowing more context behind it. I'm still of that mindset of censorship shouldn't be a thing to an extent, and this is seeming like it might be approaching that extent,
Right. That's where I'm at here, because when I think about the rationale behind this particular move, I can agree with it, but you always have to be concerned when setting a precedent, because that can potentially be used to justify further things down the line. Although, apparently this is not the first move of this nature that Netflix has made this year. I don't know if you guys are aware.
Oh,
this is just at the
Bird Box?
Bird Box. Yes, this is just at the end of the article that I looked up about this. I guess back in March, Netflix replaced a scene from Bird Box that included some real life footage of a train wreck somewhere in Canada, where like almost 50 real people died in the footage, like in that train wreck that the show is depicting in the footage. And that was originally part of Bird Box that Netflix, I guess, then removed after, I'm assuming there was some controversy about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I can get behind that too.
I can also get behind that too, because that just seems really tasteless.
Yeah.
And disrespectful.
Worth noting, though, and I wish I had some examples in mind as I say this, but whenever there's some disaster happening in movies, they frequently cut to like news footage of disaster. They're frequently using real footage there. And so I thought it was a little weird that this controversy happened, because like it wasn't the first or biggest example of it. if I knew we were going to talk about this, I would have had more written down in mind. But I agree with the move, and I think movies should avoid using real footage of disasters when they very well have the means to make something themselves. You don't need real footage to tell that story. I just thought it was a little weird that it suddenly happened to one particular movie when it's really not unusual. Yeah. That said, I'm going to move on to a more lighthearted topic to go out on, which is my VR game of the week, Fruit Ninja.
Fruit Ninja. They have a Fruit Ninja VR?
Yeah. And I actually last played this like a month ago because my backlog of things to talk about here is so deep. Fruit Ninja VR was one of the first VR games of the modern revival, and it's not a game that if you buy it you'll spend any significant amount of time in. I probably have 2 hours total in it in the 2 years that I've owned it. But what I really like about it, and a reason that I think people should buy it, at least on a sale, is that when you're demoing VR to people, it's a really good one to use because it's a game people are already familiar with. You don't need to explain anything about it. You know, everything they know about how it works on a phone is how it works in VR. And there's no buttons at all to explain to people. That's always the most fun part of demoing VR, is shoving people in a headset and then saying, now here's the buttons on this controller you've never seen and what they do that you currently can't see. So Fruit Ninja, there's no button interaction at all. You just swipe at options that are hanging in the air in front of you and start doing what you're familiar with. And it's a lot of fun. It's a casual as hell game, but it's a lot of fun for me, even coming back to it 2 years later, being experienced with more serious VR games with more effort put behind them. But I guess it's just well polished, and who doesn't like Fruit Ninja? Right. If there's a downside to it, it's that VR headset field of views are still not wide enough to be acceptable here. So like the fruit is being shot out of like launchers in the floor in front of you, and you have to use the audio cues to notice them coming from your left or your right. And like VR directional audio is really good, but you can't see most of it coming at you fast enough is the only thing. They're positioned in a way that a real human field of view would be able to see all of this, but you're inside a ski mask field of view isn't enough. That said, still super cool. Buy it on sale. Not going to, not a game changer by any means. Not a reason to buy VR, but
it's a time waster, but for your whole face.
But it's cool enough to demo people and help them get the point, especially like when you're demoing to people that aren't gamers. Like this is, if I'm demoing it to like a 60-year-old who hasn't played a game since the Atari 2600, like I'm going to throw them in this.
Yeah.
So
chances are they've experienced it on a phone.
Now, I've heard that this game's actually come under a bit of controversy for This game's actually come under a little bit of controversy for glorifying like fruit-based homicide. And I've heard that there's actually a movement to kind of replace some of the content of this game. Now, I'm not sure how you guys feel about this, but I personally don't want any of my fruit censored.
I don't know, Josh. I guess I just don't know what the fruit slaughter is really contributing to the art here.
It just seems it's way too graphic for my taste. There's juice flying everywhere. I don't know how to explain that to my kids.
Well, they should just at least let this be out there in the public to show them what they did wrong.
I mean, when this game gets put in the Smithsonian, do you want there to be graphic juice splatters, or do you want a game that you
under age restriction? Under age restriction. Okay.
What are you going to tell your grandkids?
All right. I don't know how to end this bit. Thanks for listening. We love you. This has been yet another Geek Show. See you next time.
Take care.
I am so sorry.